Ms. Martin,
Here.
Mr. Green, Ms. Hanson, Ms. Rutherford, Ms. Fauntleroy, Mr. Harrell, Ms. Moore, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Baker, Ms. McCullum, Ms. Lamy, Ms. Hurstis, Mr. Burrow, Mr. Kuzan, Ms. Rufino Gallagher.
Thank you. We will skip the invocation and pledge. Board members, do you have anyone you would like to recognize?
I'd like to recognize a group.
Please, Ms. Moore.
Okay, thank you. I was fortunate enough to be invited to Blue High School for the JAG congratulatory meeting that they had this week. Also in attendance was Ms. Hanson, myself, Mr. Green, our superintendent, the school body, Mr. Ball, assistant principal at Lake Shore. I want to really thank Dr. Michelle Magario, who runs the JAG program. And for those of you that are not up on what exactly they do, they take at-risk students that start out their high school career, not feeling like they're going to make it. And these kids have excelled. The kids gave their stories. Most of them are on the honor roll now. They have a goal in life. So it's an awesome program. It's offered in every high school, am I correct? Right. And each one has a leader or person that's in charge of doing this. The schools involved in this that day were Fontainebleau High School, which hosted, we want to thank them, Mandeville High, Covington High, and Lakeshore High. And I had one other thing. If any of you have children that are in elementary school, kindergarten, and first grade, we had 100th Day last Friday. We had to skip it because of snow the week before. I was fortunate enough to be invited to Chattaima for their 100th Day. The kids were adorable. They celebrate the 100th day of school. And then, of course, I'm a little prejudiced. I have a granddaughter. I went to her school. And when I tell you they've got walkers and canes and gray hair and curls and pearls, they were adorable. So if you haven't ever had that before, take advantage of it one year. It's really neat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
One more. That's me, sorry. I saw photos on Facebook and they were priceless. The 100th day of school, they were priceless. Some of the best I've ever seen, so parents, y'all did fantastic.
Yeah, the parents.
And I cannot speak for Fontainebleau High because I don't know anybody who goes there, so I cannot say this. Maybe Mr. Alfonso can. But not only did North Shore High School girls, Mandeville High School girls, and Fontainebleau High School girls all won, I don't know how you call it, like they pulled the upset in soccer this week. And at least North Shore and Mandeville, and I'm fairly certain Fontainebleau, their kids are all the girls are all the seniors are all academic, as well as soccer players. So not only do we have good athletes, we have very smart individuals. So congratulations to all three of those teams. Can't speak for the boys because they haven't finished yet. Yes, they all won tonight. And lastly, thank you to Little Oak Middle School. They invited me to their king cake tasting day after school before their staff meeting for School Board Appreciation Month. So thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you. I would also like to congratulate the Mandeville Junior High boys soccer team, who went undefeated this season. Also, the Mandeville High School Spinnakers dance team and Mariners dance team, the Mandeville Junior High Prancing Patriots, and the Lakeshore High Silver Stars. They all just got back from Disney from the National Dance Team Championship, and they all performed really well, and we're very proud of you. So. Next, we have some exciting news from our finance department. Ms. Prevost and her department have earned 2 certificates of achievement that I would like Mr. Jabby to go over.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Martin. Appreciate it. Tonight, Mr. Lester Rishu from LaPorte is going to present these awards, recognize our staff, and also deliver the audit here in just a few minutes. Mr. Lester, thank you for your patience tonight. I know you got an education, so we appreciate it. But I'll turn it over to you at this time.
And just as a point of reference, every time I show up at board meetings, they normally last about 4 hours. So if you ever see me on the agenda, I think just be prepared, because I've had this experience at other boards that I present to. So just a word of warning. But good evening. I'm here to present the 2 awards to the school board. These recognize the school board's commitment and achievements for transparency above and beyond what's normally required of generally accepted accounting principles. And they just demonstrate a high level of excellence. The school board's actually received these awards, I think we figured 37 years, but maybe we can just say 30-plus years. The first is the GFOA, this is the ASBO, the GFOA award. This is the premier accounting association for government accountants, and the other one is the Association of School Board Officials Award. So Gary, I think you're the recipient of the awards. Congratulations to the finance department and the school board for these continued efforts.
So board members, tonight, these awards, just a tremendous honor for us. As you all know, and you are very aware, our finance department goes above and beyond to not only service this school system, our employees, but also service the community and absolute transparency. Terry and her staff have bent over backwards to make sure that everything that is taken care of through finance department in this school system is put on the website for anyone to pull, take a look at, audit, critique, whatever they'd like. And the amazing staff that's here with us tonight is here to represent this department. And if I could just take a moment to thank them real quick. Of course, Ms. Terry Prevost, our CFO, Mr. Gary Silva, who you just heard, our chief accountant. If y'all stand for me, that would be awesome. Ms. Tammy Ryan, our supervisor of payroll. Ms. Laura Vanderklis, our supervisor of purchasing. Mr. Ron Randolph was unable to make it. He is under the weather tonight, but we are blessed to have amazing people. Everything we do is to give full transparency, but more than that is to service our employees and to make sure that they have everything they need. They understand, what their paycheck looks like, what goes on, how to get things for their schools, how to get things for their groups, and to make sure that you guys in the community stay fully informed of what goes on and what we do every day on a day-to-day basis. So thank you all very much. Appreciate y'all being here. And then
Okay.
C.
Ms. Prevost,
All
would you
right,
like to go ahead and introduce?
Item C is presentation of the fiscal 23-24 annual comprehensive financial report and audit, and Mr. Rishu is going to do that presentation.
All right, thank you again. I think everyone probably has a PDF copy of this very large document, so I'll just start at page 1 and we'll get through it. We'll get through it. No, the beauty of these reports is if you have the PDF copy, PDF page 224, that is a summary, so it's all the way at the end. They put the summary all the way at the end, so if you want to flip to that if you'd like, but to keep it short and sweet, it was an unmodified opinion. That's exact. Oh,
That's where I'm going.
it's not PDF page. You have physical page number? Or?
Okay, let's go down.
Let's see. It's physical page 180 and 181.
Okay.
So it's the summary schedule, the schedule of findings and question costs, and it just kind of outlines the results of the audit. Unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. That's exactly what you hope to see in a situation like this. Again, certainly at our time at LaPorte, we've issued this type of opinion in probably many years before. As far as internal controls over financial reporting, things that we would have to report that are important to the citizens and the legislative auditor, no issues to report there, no weaknesses or control deficiencies. And then the federal awards that we review, we test those. We received a substantial amount last year. We had to continue to keep testing the Education Stabilization Fund. Obviously, those funds are drying up at this point, but we didn't encounter any issues that we had to report in that portion of the federal awards audit. So that's that's a good audit. If you have any questions about the audit, I'd be happy to answer those of how we conducted the audit itself or any questions, we did issue 2 other reports, the statewide agreed upon procedures report, and there's a BESI statistical procedures report that we're required to perform as well. You also have copies of those, but in a nutshell, there's nothing to report on those. There were no findings or issues that we were required to indicate in those reports. So all in all, a good audit. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Probably take some time to digest that, but no news is good news in this situation, so.
Thank you, Mr. Rishu. Do I have any comments or questions from board members?
I got the inside scoop on the pre-K 4 and the art program. My little kindergartner, she's big into art, so happy to hear about that.
Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being here. If you'd
Thank
like
you,
to
Ms.
leave, you
Rishu.
can go ahead and do that now.
Thank you.
All right, the next 5 agenda items, letters D through H, are policies that were tabled during a previous meeting so we could discuss them more in a small group setting. And I would like to thank Ms. Prevost, Ms. Hart, Mr. Alfonso, Ms. Vanderklis for being there with us during that meeting and answering our questions and just explaining them a little bit more. We appreciate you for doing that. I'll turn it over to Ms. Prevost and she'll go through them.
Okay, the first policy is consideration of revisions to School Board Policy DFAA, Industrial Tax Exemption. These changes result, the governor issued Executive Order JML 24-23 on February 21st, 2024. This executive order revised the guidelines for industrial tax exemptions. They're also known as ITEPs. The changes to the policy mirror this executive order. Major changes were the governor removed the job creation requirements for ITEPs to be awarded. A local ITEP committee is required for each parish. St. Tammany already had an ITEP committee. However, the ITEP committee now must include the parish president, the president of the school board or the superintendent, the sheriff or his designee, and the mayor of each municipality impacted by the ITEP. St. Tammany's ITEP committee was previously made up of designees for the parish, school board, sheriff, and applicable municipalities, generally the financial officers of these organizations. Now the heads of the government must be part of the board. The public meeting for the committee must be held at the parish government facility. That's new. Previously, we held it at the St. Tammany Court facility. The local ITEP committee now makes the decision to approve or deny the application by resolution. Previously, the parish ITEP committee made recommendations to the various governments, and those governments approved or denied the application. The local governments no longer vote on ITEPs except for the officials that are on the committee. The local ITEP committee submits the approval or denial to the Louisiana Economic Development Agency, or LED. However, the Board of Commerce or the governor may disregard local approvals or denials. As a caveat, we found out toward the end of last week that LED has notified us that we have to do a board resolution, and that resolution must state that you're going to appoint the superintendent to the local ITEP committee, and we need to have that approved by the board by February 28th.
Thanks.
So we will be bringing that resolution agenda item next Thursday. But I just want to make you aware of it. It's pretty much just a administrative function. They want a resolution showing that you would like the superintendent to serve on the committee instead of the board president. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on the policy.
Thank you, Ms. Prevost. Do I have a motion? Mr. Bro, do I have a second?
I meant.
Ms. Moore? All right. Any comments by the public? Comments by the board? Ooh, Ms. Barrios?
So I'm just wondering why, although it seems pretty obvious to me, why they want the district superintendents as opposed to the board chairman, who represents in most districts, well, certainly more than a single superintendent. Okay, not that Mr. Superintendent Jabby wouldn't serve well, but that seems like they're making a statement with that because you all are elected by the public. So that's a question I have, and I don't know what you can do about it, what statement you can make, what resolution, but I do think, since you really have no choice, that you might want to at least have a voice in it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Bro?
Yeah, I basically had the same question. The policy says that either the superintendent or the president. And so I find it, why do we need to determine which one in advance? It doesn't make sense. We're following the policy. We're going to have somebody there. We don't have to say which one. That's state law. So I don't see the need to
They're requiring
establish
it.
somebody.
They're requiring it. They call all the shots.
Yeah.
So they're requiring we do it. They told us we have to do it by the end of the month. Some of the other districts have already done it.
Mr. Massengill agreed to come if he needed to.
Yeah.
That's-
They will
yeah.
probably be here Thursday to talk
I'm
more
just
about
saying,
it.
we have a
Yeah.
state law, and now we're saying that we're not going to do the state law. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And then my other, I mean, I just throw that out. We'll discuss it in the next meeting. And then this paragraph here, before any exemption shall be considered by the committee shall establish minimum standards and criteria under which exemptions may be considered or granted. Does that mean that the commission or the board will decide that?
Economic development. Economic development will bring those standards.
We also, the committee also has a rubric right now. We'll have to probably remove the job creation, but we may leave, it'll all, I mean, I'm not on the committee now, but I will attend. But I'm assuming they may want to leave that in our own. And so deciding if we're going to approve or deny, we have our own rubric of how we're going to approve or deny.
And that's what I was asking. Is that our own rubric?
Yes,
or is
you can
it-
do your
Or is
own.
it the committee?
Our own rubric.
Right.
Because, you know, that was always a point of contention. They will say, oh, in 30 years, it'll pay itself off. Well, you know, we may have a more strict standard. And like, if you don't pay this, if you don't break even after 6 years.
Right.
That's a better criteria than, you know, I've never seen the Chamber of Commerce see one of these things they didn't like.
Well,
And so-
previously, we could claw it back, like take it back, but now you can't do that. So it wouldn't matter if they didn't meet the criteria.
But this, what I'm asking is, this clause, does it refer to the parish as a whole or to us?
Yeah, well, the parish's rubric for the committee will have to be at a minimum the LED requirements, but we could go beyond that if we want, because we're making the decision to approve or deny on whatever criteria we want. Now, that
But
doesn't
that would
mean-
only be our vote.
Correct.
Correct. So if we deny, but that doesn't mean anything, they can still approve it at the state level, the governor
Okay,
or the
so
LED.
this clause refers to us, our determination.
Right, basically, yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Which
thank
we
you.
already have criteria, so I'm assuming, but they're going to probably tweak it and, change it somewhat.
Thank you.
Ms. Gallagher?
Two things. While I agree with what Ms. Barrow said, my only somehow answer to that would be because the parish president, the sheriff, and the mayor are also elected officials, that all of us were elected, and we have the say of whether he stays or he goes. And I guess if we trust that he's going to make it for the better, and one of us as a designee, while we're for the whole, I'm not saying it makes sense. I'm just saying that I'm District 15, so maybe I'm looking out for my district, and then he would look out for his district, where Mr. Jabby is looking out for the entire district. That's all I can come up with in the 5 minutes that we were doing this. And then you said something about, Mr. Jabby, you said something about, like, with this, the clause that Mr. Bro was saying about the committee, and you brought up the Economic Development Committee. Nowhere in here do they talk about them, so
They're the one that receives the application, and they're the ones that will run the process, the committee.
They run the committee,
They run the
basically.
committee.
They just own it
They're like
as,
the organizers of the
Right.
committee.
Okay.
They're
Like,
just
I
the
guess maybe I
organizers.
didn't see their name in here anywhere, so I'm like, I'm so confused of where they even came
They're the
from.
ones that bring the ITEP to the
Okay.
entire committee.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, that's all
and
I
as
got.
far as the resolution, my take on it is, I spoke to the representative LED asking why we had to do it. It's basically the board given authority for the superintendent to serve on the committee. So he's basically your voice on the committee. Now, you could also do the board president, but most of the school district are doing the
I'm
superintendent.
going to do what you guys want me to do.
Right,
So I want
exactly.
to be very
Yeah.
clear on that. Yeah.
Are you done, Ms. Gallagher? Oh, yes. Mr. Kuzan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The bottom line is after the superintendent and the mayor and all those people meet, the governor makes the final decision.
Correct.
He can overrule. So in essence, it's going to be the decision is gonna be made by the governor anyway. And he may have his mind made up on whatever the discussion is. But that's the bottom line. And that's why I don't see the reason for all this. But anyway, thank you.
I don't see
Ms. Hanson.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to clarify that voting member is this parish president, the president of the school board, or the superintendent, the sheriff or his designee. So the designee is,
He
the
can
sheriff
appoint.
is, but the sheriff is elected, his designee isn't elected.
Right,
so
he
that's
could pick his chief financial officer.
And then the mayor of a municipality.
Right.
Now, this doesn't mean these are the only people that can attend the committee, correct?
Correct.
So in
Like,
other words,
I'm sure I will be attending.
you will be attending. And so if we do, and I don't know if we do or don't, like you said, Mr. Kuzan, it's all maybe a moot point because, we know who has the final stamp of approval. But whether it's the school board president or our superintendent, they both can be present at the meeting, at the committee meeting. So I think that we need to note that.
It's a public meeting, so anyone
So
can be
it's-
present.
Okay, so.
Right. But
We can
only
all
those,
say what we
only
wanna
those groups
say.
will vote. Only that group of people will vote. I can attend, but I won't have a vote. Neither does St. Tammany Corp. They like initiate the meeting. They're basically there.
Well, and at the end of the day, neither does the school board president or the superintendent. They'll have a vote.
They'll have a vote. They'll have a vote.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that was unkind.
Well, and Ms. Hanson, I believe in the actual order, it does say that local elected officials or school board members, in our case, are encouraged to attend. Doesn't it say that?
Correct.
Yeah.
And voice your concerns
Right.
directly to the governor if you don't like the
And I
result.
think thanks for pointing that out as
Dr. Peterson?
All right. I know it seems like a moot point because the governor might be making a decision, but that doesn't matter. It feels good when we make the decision, and he can do what he wants later, but if we've already made it, we don't need him because we made it. And sending our already chosen educational employee to go out there and look out for our schools, that just makes sense. And I over any of us. I mean, this guy has been to war and back and seen it all. And I think, he represents St. Tammany. I think about St. Tammany, I think about Frank Jabbie. And I think that's what I want the rest of the people in the parish to think about when they meet and they want to talk about education. Here's the guy that's already on the top of the hill, and he knows what we got to do. So, not sliding anyone here, but I really believe that superintendent needs to be there, and we just need to go ahead and vote this thing and get it over with, and we should be moving on instead of having all this conversation.
That's right.
That's all.
So why did you speak to begin with then?
Well, I just wanted, it seemed like we were just dragging here.
Well, I've been saying it, maybe I
Would
need to
everyone
start
please vote?
talking. Just cut it off. Y'all talk too damn much, all right. Truly.
And that passes unanimously with 11 yeas. All right, next. Ms. Prevost?
Consideration of revisions to school board policy DJE purchasing. The only change to policy DJE is the elimination of a paragraph in the contracts administration section. And just to clarify, a lot of the board thought I was taking away contracts and the rights. The reason I eliminated this paragraph is because the signatures and contract provisions are spelled out very clearly in DJA, which we revised back in August. So there was no use to duplicate it in this policy. So I took out that paragraph because it basically changed from DJA. So I didn't want to duplicate the wording from DJA in DJE. It just wasn't necessary. So that's the only change there. But just so everyone knows, DJA, the policy we passed in August, states that contractual agreements shall be signed by the board
DJE,
president and the
right here, E.
superintendent unless the contract is for routine and
just
necessary
took it out, yeah.
expenditures to carry out general business operation, and the contract is for less than $60,000, in which case the superintendent will sign. There is also a section on extensions of contracts of $60,000 or more that require school board approval and the signatures of the board president and the superintendent. So we have contracts covered covered clearly in that policy, so they didn't need to be in this one. So it's just cleaning up the wording.
Okay. The second one is.
Do I have a
the one
motion?
they're using. I make a
Ms. Baker,
motion.
do I have a second?
I make a
Ms.
motion, we
Hanson.
accept it.
Any comments from the public? All right, board members, comments? Queue up, please. Mr. Bro.
Just a quick question. What would constitute a routine business, like paper, copier, just
Yeah,
one?
operations, not long-term contracts. It would be things that we do
Just give me
annually.
one.
I'll give you one. He signs tons of them every day. A school contract, I'm blank. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Lots of contracts.
Would everyone
Would not
please,
want to sign, or Mr. Green would want to sign.
please vote? And that passes unanimously with 11 yeas. Next.
Okay. Consideration revisions to school board policy DJED, bids, requests for proposals, and quotations for public works and the purchase of materials and supplies. I'm proposing changes to policy DJED. Our current policy requires 3 quotes for purchases of $5,000 and less than $30,000. Purchases under $5,000 do not require quotes, but are encouraged under the current policy. It is getting more and more difficult to get vendors to provide quotes on purchases, and the time and paperwork is very overwhelming for our schools and support sites. Therefore, I'm requesting the policy be revised as follows. Purchases under $10,000 will not require quotes, but quotes would be encouraged. Purchases from $10,000 to under $30,000 will require 3 quotes. Please keep in mind that state law requires quotes at $30,000, so we would remain far below the legal requirement while reducing the added time it takes to obtain 3 quotes. Also, federal funds guidelines require quotes for the purchase of $10,000 or more, so we'd be in line with federal guidelines. Also, as a reminder for the board and the public, there's an extensive approval process for all purchases in the district. For schools, employees are required to request approval for a purchase before the purchase is made on a form that has purpose, vendor, budget, and approximate costs. The principal must approve and sign that form before the purchase can be initiated. This is required by state law and by our policies. Once the purchase is made, a check request form is completed for the actual purchase with detailed information and the invoice. The principal will sign that form before the school bookkeeper processes payment. For other school board facilities, almost all purchases are approved by at least 2 individuals, the supervisor and the administrator who oversees the department. So we have extensive controls. We will encourage people to get quotes, but this will just help lessen the burden on schools. Also on page 4, I'm proposing increasing the record retention of documents from 6 to 7 years to match our current financial retention policy. I think that was just an oversight. We didn't change it when we changed to 7. This policy had 6, so that just puts in line with our current practices. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do you have a motion? Mr. Bro, do I have a second? Ms. McCollum?
I have one question.
Not yet.
We did
Any
quick-
questions from the public?
I pressed it. Okay.
Ms. McCollum? No?
Okay.
All right. Board members, please queue up. Ms. Gallagher?
Press it.
So I'm just asking because I'm pretty sure, unless I have my dates wrong, that we, like the first board meeting I was ever in office for, we just upped this to $5,000 2 years ago.
Possibly. I don't
So
remember.
I'm just, and I get it, like, and if, I don't understand why it's, like, we're doubling it now. We didn't even
Right.
double it last time, now
Right.
we're doubling it this time.
Right.
But is it just because if vendors aren't cooperating, if they want their business, they'll cooperate?
It's very difficult. We can't get vendors, we can't even do a purchase order because vendors don't want to provide quotes. It's very, very difficult.
Then how do we know we're purchasing and how much it's going to cost?
I actually, 2 years ago, I wanted to go to 10,000, but we thought that was too big of a jump from 1,000 to 10,000. The school district has always been very conservative with quotes. At one point, it was 250, 500, 1,000. Almost everyone is doing 10,000, and again, the state is 30,000, so we're way below the state limit, and federal funds guidelines say 10,000. So it just puts us in line with current practices, and purchases are just, inflation is just out there, and it's very difficult for these schools. It is very burdensome on my purchasing department, on school bookkeepers, because they've got to get these quotes, and it's tough.
Okay.
Ms. Moore?
Yeah, is this only apply to schools or like?
Everyone.
So our maintenance department, and they go out.
Absolutely. That's
Can
another
they
one.
reuse a quote that they got? I mean, I have that before. So they've got.
Not unless it's
The
recent.
lock for this school is exactly, but they've got to send out another.
Right.
That is so much wasted time.
Right, well, if you're doing that, that's considered bid splitting, so if it was that
Oh,
close
Lord
together,
have
you,
mercy.
quote splitting, rather, so, yeah, you need to do it all at once.
But if we get a quote on a chiller, we know we're not going to, that's the one that goes with whatever. And if it's the same one for another school,
Right.
it's just,
But
to
it
me.
could change in a day.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
yeah.
Ms. Rutherford?
What types of things are the schools requesting that would be over almost $10,000 for
Almost.
bids? Besides something huge that we're looking for, like a chiller?
There's all kinds of things they buy, football, helmet, renovations, things like when they redo them. That falls like 7,500, so that's one they wouldn't have, that's hard to get quotes on because there's one vendor, I think Rydell is the one that does it, so it just saves that step, because they're generally going with the same vendors. We're just forcing them to go out and get quotes from other people, and it ends up being the same process, and like she said, you're getting one, then you gotta go get it again because of the price. Now, a chiller would be way beyond
Yeah, that's-
the
This
10,000.
mainly applies to our junior highs, but mainly high schools where we have just so many clubs, organizations, and sports. It's just, it's so difficult when you looking at helmets. Rydell is the one that makes concussion-resistant helmets. No one really competes with them. So now we're trying to find multiple Rydell vendors. It's just very difficult to do. And then that falls on the bookkeepers to try to start organizing that, and to our high school bookkeepers, it's a difficult. If there was any question that there was, I was worried about our process being compromised, we would absolutely have not asked for this. Our bookkeepers need help, and to take some of the load off, this would remove a lot of the burden from a lot of these purchases that happen. So, and again, like Terry said, we're well under the threshold from the state.
The federal says 10,000.
It's the
10,000,
same.
so we would match that.
It would match
They
that.
recommend.
We would
Okay.
mirror that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Would everyone please vote? And that passes with 10 yeas and 1 nay. Next.
Okay, consideration or revision to school board policy DJEF, professional services. I'm proposing some changes to this policy. I've been participating in a lot of trainings on best practices for purchasing, and some of that included discussions on requests for proposals, RFPs, and requests for qualifications, RFQs. So best practices for RFPs and RFQs state that in order to avoid a potential conflict of interest in the event of a protest of the selection process, certain individuals should not be included on the committees. Agencies should avoid including elected officials on an evaluation committee as to keep the appearance of independent evaluation and not appear to politicize the selection process. A board member may attend the committee meetings as a non-voting member for information purposes or to bring information back to the board. It wouldn't prohibit that. I also added a statement that employees, employee family members, or former employees should not provide references in RFPs. We do not want the independence of judgment of the committee members to be compromised, and we want to promote transparency and fairness in the selection process. I also added that we don't want members of purchasing because they deal with the vendors in case of protest, and also our legal team on those committees.
Do I have a motion? Ms. Hanson, do I have a second? Ms. Lammy? Any comments from the public? Any comments from board members? Everyone, please vote. And that passes unanimously.
Consideration revisions to school board policy DJEG, purchase orders. I just have a couple of changes on this policy. Since this policy only relates to schools, I've added the word school in front of purchase order to make it clear it doesn't apply to other buildings. I'm updating the second paragraph to mirror current school accounting policy. Schools are not allowed to write checks of $5,000 or more, except with a few limited exceptions. This policy still had the $3,000, which we changed several years ago. It was an oversight. So it's just bringing that in line with our current school finance handbook.
Do I have a motion? Ms. Moore, do I have a second? Ms. Baker? Any comments from the public? Any comments from board members? Ms. Gallagher?
So now I'm confused if the one before that, you didn't need a quote to purchase for $10,000. Now the school can only purchase for $5,000?
No, this is different. This is for a purchase order. So they have to do a purchase order once the purchase is $5,000. They may not have to attach quotes if it's between $5,000 and $10,000. That has nothing to do with this. This is related, you have to do a purchase order. You can't just buy by school check. So we do have a few exceptions, senior trips, field trips, we let them write checks for over $5,000 because it's a pass-through. Parents give us the money, they write a check. But other than that, we require a purchase order to be done through our software when it's over $5,000.
And that software is our checks and balances. That purchase order is going to be approved by multiple departments in order to approve.
And the
So
school board would
it's-
cut the check, so the
it's
school would not write a $5,000 check.
Checks and
anymore.
balances.
Right.
Everyone, please vote. And that passes unanimously. Ms. Prevost, you again.
Recommendation for approval of fiscal year 24-25 federal and state budgets. And the state budgets are approved by the Louisiana Department of Education, and then our local grant budgets. So I provided you with the various budgets for all federal, state, and local grants that have been awarded and approved by the various agency. It usually takes a few months. That's why we're bringing it to you later. So this is just an administrative approval of these budgets. They're pretty much controlled by the state. They approve them. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do I have a motion? Ms. Rutherford, do I have a second? Ms. Moore? Any comments from the public? Comments from board members? Seeing none, everyone vote. And that passes unanimously.
I provided you with the monthly financial reports for November and December since we skipped a month. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Gallagher?
So I have a couple. So in November, we look at the transfer from general funds, that was $500,000. I'm on the parish-wide November 2024, page 3. So like I'm in my head, I'm guessing the period starts July 1st, and we have a budget for parish-wide construction, and in November, we've already brought over $500,000
Right.
from general fund, and then in December, we added another $250,000 to that. Like, are we going over budget in parish-wide construction?
No, we budgeted $3 million in transfers for general fund. We do a piece a month. We spread it over the 12 months. We start late because the budget's not approved to September. But, so we spread the $3 million, we give it so much a month. I will tell you, probably in February, since we've received our property taxes for the year, we'll probably go ahead and pay out the balance. So it will get the full $3 million probably, the remainder in February.
Okay, what is P000 land for $50 in December? Like, that wasn't on the November one, so what is that for? Like, it just says land. This is the December parish-wide.
December, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
That's evidently an appraisal or something that we did. Cameron probably could speak, but yeah, we're always appraising pieces of property, so that's a start of looking at property.
Okay, and then the only other question I have is I know we set aside, I don't know how many millions of dollars in like safety and security and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And I don't know when some of these purchases were made, but like emergency radios, fences around schools, could that have not come from that budget instead of general parish-wide construction?
That's a good point. We actually had a meeting about that this week. We're probably going to be moving those emergency radios because that was a board-approved item, the radios and securities. We're probably going to move that out of parish-wide and into BP oil. So that'll probably be done in February.
Yeah, that's just where it was always paid from, so yes.
Right.
yes.
No, I get it. But like even some like fencing, gate security, like at Creekside and
Yeah,
there's
we can
another-
evaluate it. We can go.
Yeah,
we'll-
I was
I'll
just
make a
curious,
note.
and it's just questions, I'm not.
No, it's a very good point.
That's where all
Cameron
those
brought that to me.
things,
Yeah.
that's
And I
where all
don't-
those things have been paid for them in the
Yeah, I
past.
feel like this might be like from July to December's happened. I don't remember when we allocated that money to know if some of this happened before or after, so I just wanted to.
It's
ask.
all after. We did that before, so.
Okay.
We will evaluate it. Cameron has been diving in. We've met a couple times, and we'll probably be shifting some things to BP.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keller. Ms. Prevost?
We're done? Okay. All right, the monthly purchasing report was provided to you, and Ms. Vanderklis is here to answer any questions on those reports.
Questions from board members? And we have none. Moving along.
Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Ms. Prevost. Next, we have our administrative update from Ms. Hart.
Thank you, Chairwoman Martin, Superintendent Jabby, and board members. I'd like to let you know that we will be celebrating National School Breakfast Week, February 24th through 28th, and Louisiana School Lunch Week, March 10th through the 14th. In talking with Ms. Lelaine, she had told me that they're continuing to evaluate meal items for next school year to increase participation for breakfast and lunch. Casey came to my office today and she was very excited because she surveyed her cafeteria managers anonymously and asked them what was their why of why they do what they do every day. And of course, the overall answer was kids. But some of them were really, they touched my heart, and I wanted to share some of those with y'all tonight. So some of the responses were, a student's teacher changes every year, but we are the ones that they can count on seeing year after year. I love the kids, and I learn just as much from them as they do from me. I love all the people I work with, even the difficult ones. Each day, I can choose to be happy or can choose to be cranky. I choose happiness because I want the kids to be happy. I began in St. Tammany for the insurance, but I stay for the relationships. This school is my home, and these are my people. It warms my heart each day to know that I'm providing what might be the only hot meal some students get each day. And many of them were thankful for Casey, as am I. She has done a fabulous job. I'd like to take time to thank our administrators, our custodians, and our maintenance personnel in preparing for the snowstorm. We have checklists, what to do for hurricanes and what to do for different things, and I'm like, okay, snow. I'm looking, looking at Mr. Kosei's files, where's the snow? But they did an amazing job just trying to get their schools ready, get them prepared. We were very fortunate that we didn't have a lot of damage. We had issues that maintenance was able to take care of right away. And we appreciate the custodians who came out, administrators, so that we could get back to school as quickly as possible. And that's my update.
Thank you, Ms. Hart. Do any board members have any questions for Ms. Hart? Mr. Breaux?
Yes, you mentioned that we wanted to increase participation in the meals program. Do you have any trend data? Are we decreasing, increasing?
I do not, but I can get you that information.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Casey?
I can speak to that. Right now, we're about even compared to last year for lunch. Breakfast is up, say about 500 to 750 on a daily basis. We're looking at simplifying some menus that will help with some of the staffing constraints we're going to run into while we're evaluating everything, and some things that the kids are going to like a little bit better. I've pulled some menus from websites from our surrounding parishes, some parishes that are maybe, further towards the other side of the state, towards Texas, that might have a similar demographic to us, to look and see, what are they doing? What are they doing that we aren't doing? Because that's what I'm being compared to. That's what I have to compare myself to, is other parishes, just like you guys do. And so, you see things like they have pizza every Friday. The kids stinking like pizza, so give them pizza. So these are things that we're discussing with our managers and doing taste testings with our managers, so that we can, feed the kids a nutritious meal, but not overwork our staff at the same time. So I am looking at data, and we're pulling reports to see, what menu items are popular, and looking at surrounding parishes to see what menu items are popular with them.
So the idea is if the kids like it, we're going to have more.
Yes.
So we will be trending up, hopefully.
We should. Yeah, as long as it falls within the nutritional values for the week that we have to address, because in addition to having to look at these menus for next year, we also have to look at some added sugar constraints that go into place July 1st, and some sodium constraints that are being evaluated for next school year, and some Buy American constraints that are also being put upon us.
Buy American.
So part of this was, if I read through this, is to make it easier on the staff to produce these items as well?
Yes, sir.
Are we reducing cafeteria staff?
So my department as well has been asked to take a deep dive into staffing to make us function more efficiently, and to address some of the budget concerns that I inherited.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
And we, thank you, Casey. And to Mr. Burrow's point, to Casey's point, the same constraints I've asked everyone to do. So that's why Casey is exploring some options that would take some of the burden and some of the heavy lifts off of that cafeteria staff, and also give the kids what they want. There are some menu items that are much easier to prepare on the staff, as you know, for those of you who cook at home. So thank you.
All right.
Ms. Moore?
Casey, come on back. Tell me, are you going to have students, I've got grandkids and their friends, and, I ate in the cafeteria all the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Except pizza day.
Yes,
That's the only time I didn't like it. But are we going to have them giving input?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is gross, but do we look at the stuff they throw away, the
Yes, ma'am.
garbage, to see what they really,
Yes, ma'am.
They might get it, but they don't eat it.
Yes, ma'am. And just as you have some governmental restraints, I guess is the best way to say it, we too have those. As you know, we offer the kids 5 items, but in order to meet the criteria to receive our funding, we have to give them 3. And of those 3, has to be a fruit or a vegetable that equates to a half a cup on that plate to meet the requirements that the USDA puts on us. So, we're always looking for creative ways to offer the students things that they will eat and not throw in the garbage, because no one's heart breaks more than our cafeteria managers when they see their staff put all this work into this food and it just goes into the garbage. But we still have to meet the guidelines that are given to us by the USDA to get that reimbursable money.
And the cafeteria ladies, or men, there's men in the
There's
cafeteria.
a few, yes, ma'am.
They work very hard.
Yes, ma'am, they do.
So is that one of the reasons they're using polystyrene plates?
Yes, ma'am, and that's something I'm evaluating as well. We're looking at other
That
options
kills
for
me
that.
for the,
Yes, ma'am.
being thrown away.
Yes, ma'am, we're looking at those.
Okay.
We're well aware of that as well.
But I know it's a washing and then more people.
Yes,
so,
ma'am, that's
okay.
correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Hanson?
Just briefly, I wanted to follow up on what Mr. Bro said about, if they really like it, they will eat it. I don't know if it's still like this in the high schools, but if you've been to a high school on Chicken Strip Friday, you better watch out. Let me tell you, one of the positive rewards we were able to give kids when they earned positive rewards, was you got to be in the front of the line on Chicken Strip Friday day. So,
it's Chicken Strip Monday now, and we're looking towards Pizza Friday.
okay, well, as long as you still got the chicken strips,
Yes,
they'll be
ma'am.
happy. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gallagher.
So if I'm not mistaken, isn't this the last year of the free lunch program we voted on, or is there one more year
So-
after this?
We have to make some decisions. We are still within the qualifying constraints for now. But as I spoke to you all, at the very 9th hour, right after my nomination, we are going to discuss that as soon as we get the federal guidelines for reimbursement, which should come out in March.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like next year, if it's not free, there would be income going into your, for kids paying for lunch.
So that would be a board decision because we would still technically qualify under the current guidelines for CEP.
Okay, but if it doesn't get approved, what I'm saying is that would be an option to where there'd be more money going into your budget of the kids that are paying for the food.
Potentially, but I will tell you, there's going to be an impact period with that because they're so used to not paying, then the burden might be passed on to the schools after that because the unpaid lunch balances would come back. And any of the principals in here can speak to the burden that unpaid lunch balances put on the schools.
We'll bring everything to you, though, Ms.
But
Gallagher.
I
We
am
will bring
prepared,
everything.
as
But
soon
yes,
as that
we-
data is released from the USDA, I'm prepared to propose that to the board so the board can help make the best decision possible.
And we would have to, if that was the case, we would have to go back to filling out applications for free and reduced, all the different things that took place pre-COVID, definitely.
Yes.
And I would like to make a request for when we do discuss that later.
Yes, ma'am.
That prior to that meeting, we make sure that we have all of the data.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I remember last time we
Yes,
had
ma'am.
asked how much it would cost, and we weren't told any of that. So
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the grace as the new girl then. I'll make sure it's ready this time.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Kuzan.
I'd just like to say, if we qualify, I certainly would hope that even if we fall short a few dollars, I certainly hope we can find the little extra somewhere else so that we can, feed the kids. Because, you may not realize it, but for some students, that's the only meal or the only meals they get that day, okay? So let's try to make sure that we find a way for this, okay? That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Ms. Hart, would you like to continue?
I just want to thank Casey again. I told y'all she was awesome. Our monthly maintenance and custodial report was uploaded to Board Docs, and Mr. Brad Taylor is here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from board members? No? All right, moving on. Next, we have construction. Ms. Tipton.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. My first item is consideration of bids for St. Tammany Junior termite repairs of the gymnasium locker rooms. That's our school board project number P0514. We did receive those bids this afternoon. They've been uploaded to Board Docs. We had to push this bid back to today because of the week of the snow. The advertised pre-bid would have been on the days that we were closed and that nobody could be on the roads. So to give the bidders the most time possible and still bring them to this committee, we took them this afternoon. So tonight, we're recommending acceptance of the apparent low base bid submitted by Steel R Development LLC in the amount of $347,600 for this project.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Kuzan, second by Mr. Bro. Any questions, comments from the public?
I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Comments or questions from board members? Ms. Baker?
Is this live infestation?
We have not found any live termites at this location.
So it's old damage.
Yeah.
So when we get damage that we have to repair out of general fund, what's the priority list? Like if they're not live, how long has this been in?
It's probably been for a while, but this was affecting the structure. That was what gave us something in the ceiling started to sag, and that's when maintenance went to look at it and found that and the locker room was built in probably the mid-60s. It was its own building, and then they built the gym right next to it, probably within a couple of years. But it had laminated wood beams as structure. And then after Katrina, it was renovated some, and a hard sheetrock ceiling was put in place. So you really couldn't see the laminated beams. And there was
So
some
do we have
moisture
termite
there.
contracts now? I mean, like how are we going to make sure that
We've had a meeting with maintenance, with Dale Rourke, and with Ms. Hart to discuss that, and we're going to be having more conversations about that.
Okay. And then when a project comes, because we do live in the swamp, so we're going to have termite issues. When projects come in, how do we prioritize? I mean, obviously, if the roof is sagging, that's a dangerous situation. But how do we prioritize general fund projects? How do we go about that?
We get a lot
Like
of.
if a principal sends a work order in, how do we determine which one gets the most attention?
We look at that internally as a staff, and we see where that is in terms of the priorities of the system. And sometimes termite stuff jumps
Will
up
go
or
to the
something
front of the
else, and
list.
it
First,
doesn't
it
look
starts
right.
off with safety and security, and then it comes down the list from there, and we prioritize. That's what we do as a staff. We meet things, and as these things come in, there are things that have to be moved up, because right now, the St. Tammany boys are not dressing for PE at all. They can't enter the building.
Or girls, it's
So
both sides.
they,
Yeah.
until that's addressed, there is no PE dress out.
No, absolutely.
And so though that elevated that to the next level, so that's where we are with that.
Thank you.
And I think they are using some restrooms to do
Yeah,
some
they're,
things,
but they can't, they're doing the best they can, but that's about it.
Mr. Kuzan.
St. Tammany is one of the oldest schools, and in situations like this, I think that we really need to have a process to really take care of a situation like this, especially in termites and things like this. I don't feel that we should have does it have a priority because it's St. Tammany or it's Brock or Alton? These are old schools. And these schools need attention just like those brand-new schools. Okay? Thank you. I regret the question.
I will.
More so.
Ms. Gallagher.
I will say, I don't think she meant that, and I'm not speaking for you, but I see this where it's going, but I don't think she meant that something else should trump the fact of termites. She was simply asking, how long has this been happening? It feels like it should have been caught sooner. And just in general, if I say a toilet stopped up and then somebody else wants a pavement, and those are in the order to go, but then St. Tammany comes in with termites, that termite is going to trump my toilet and my driveway. I don't think it was like the school doesn't deserve it, if I'm not mistaken. I hope it didn't come across like that, because that's not how I took it when she asked that question. That's all I'm saying.
Was that it, Ms. Gallagher? Yeah. Okay. Ms. Baker.
Yeah, thank you. My point is so when we did our project to,
Capital improvement.
thank you, our
Yes.
capital improvement plan. So to Mr. Kuzan's point, was this something that was caught on when you went to every school? Because I know as a team, y'all went to every school. Is that something that was
This was caught by maintenance, and
Okay.
we had a light fixture issue that fell, and we had some sagging. So it was all hidden to where we didn't see, though that was not something. So parish-wide things are things that need to be done that are either routine or that come up or that it becomes an issue at a school that needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
No problem.
Would everyone please vote? And that passes unanimously. Ms. Tipton?
I have a quick construction report. I do want to say that the week of winter weather, as fun as it was, it did affect our progress on construction projects as well. Slidell 9th Street building renovations are near completion. The contractor has scheduled the striping of the gym floor. They're cleaning in the renovation area. They anticipate to be setting up final inspections here in the next week or so. The Slidell High softball locker room building is progressing as well towards completion. The air handler unit, Sammy, Mr. Menino actually stopped by on his way here. It was due to be actually physically brought to the site this afternoon, and it was there. So that's good news. They have to set that and then be able to start up the air conditioning so that they can temper the building for some finishes. The permanent power service also was energized in this past week. The sidewalks were being formed and they're scheduled to be poured in the next day or so. The existing concessions building, those renovations have been completed and that building's been turned over to the school. At Fontainebleau High, the contractor has completed demolition of the portable, that's the old type portable buildings used for classrooms. Those were known as the 300 and 900 wings, I believe. That's 17 buildings at Fontainebleau High. And they're working on the grading and the drainage in those areas. At Salmon High, female sports locker room, all the concrete block walls have been completed and the roof deck is being installed. The small project to renovate a portion of a classroom into a restroom for SWE at Sloan Middle is near completion and final inspection. At Mandeville High Visitor Side, they're doing site work, fencing, and the sidewalks. They're working their way out, so they're planning to have their inspections and be complete very soon. And Pearl River Visitor Side concession is also progressing. Similarly, they have finally been able to get the borings to connect water and sewer scheduled. The contract for the project for Mandeville Junior Gym locker room renovation has been executed, and we've started the contractual phase 1, which is for permits and shop drawings and procurement and planning. They'll start work on site in phase 2 later in the school year. Little Oak Middle and Folsom Elementary, they both moved into their renovated administration and/or classrooms respectively in those phase 2 projects at those schools prior to the winter break. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Brew?
Thank you. When can I tell them they can move in a nice street gym? I mean, the report said they were, with the last extension, they were going to finish by January 10th.
They were working towards that. They did not get the production during the Christmas break that they had hoped. And then we've had some issues with the fire water line not being able to locate a valve. They're going to have to do a hot tap on that, and they've been waiting on that valve to come in. That is expected, I think, tomorrow or today. So they'll be doing that work hopefully next week sometime. And then after that, they should be in place to start getting some final inspections. And we'll be working with the school and letting them know and coordinating a transition when it's
2 weeks?
You can see it. I'm not going to. We all want to get in there. The contractor is working very diligently.
Ms. Gallagher?
What is going in that building? Well, when I saw a picture, it was like a gymnasium. So is that all that's going to be?
It will, no, it has, at the first, it has 2 stories in the front and a gym towards the back. And this was built by the adjacent church, and then we purchased that property, if you remember. So all we did with this is the first floor and the infrastructure for this building and the proper fire exiting stairs for the second floor for a second phase at some point later. But the first floor has 4 classrooms. It has a teacher work area, staff restroom, it has restrooms. It has the gymnasium opportunity for the school. And they'll be moving, as I appreciate it, the CTE primarily classes out of the 5 old school portables that are towards the back of the school campus across the street. And we'll be able to tear those down after they make that move.
Okay, cool, thank you. As far as the locker rooms go at Manvel Junior High, is the goal that maybe that project will be complete by the start of school next year?
The goal is that hopefully the worst of the noise and demolition and things like that will be through the summer, and it won't be too far into the school year, being able to turn it back over.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for the committee meeting held on December 5th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Ms. Gallagher? Do I have a second? Ms. Baker? Comments from the public? Comments from board members? Everyone please vote. Oh, Ms. Hanson? Oh, okay.
Okay, got you. You hit the wrong X. You hit the wrong X. Unanimous.
And that passes unanimously. We now have our 3-minute public comment section. More than Brent? Yeah, I know, you're like wobbling. All right. You ready? All right, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I did want to compliment both chairs. I know both of y'all have experience at running meetings, but this was very smooth, so thank you for that. Dr. Peterson, Dr. Peterson, I do respond to your leadership, so absolutely we'll be going to Baton Rouge again. I think I was able to go 6 times. Superintendent Jabbia worked with us on one particular day. He coordinated, he allowed, I think it was 6 employees, maybe 7, take personal days to come advocate, so we will certainly be active. Every year is going to be a war. Public ed is on the chopping block. So we hope we can continue to partner with other unions, the fire department, police, to save all public institutions that serve everybody. And we were successful doing that with the Social Security Fairness Act. Last night was our first health and welfare meeting with Terry Prevost, CFO Terry Prevost. We should have done this years ago. I think Terry's expertise is going to really help the fund. She talked about investment strategies so we can grow the money. If you recall, we didn't take money to the fund this year to bleed down the fund balance, and it is being bled down quite a bit because of claims. We also added administration. We signed 159 administrators to the dental plan. So we're looking to add vision. And I want to thank Steve Alfonso and Superintendent Jabbia for helping with the open enrollment process. I just want to say, beyond servicing the contract, we try to help out whenever we can. One example was with Michelle Gallagher. We went to Little Oak one time and helped teachers move from the portables into the new wing. I want to thank Mary Hart and Principal Favre at Slotto High. 6th Ward had their floors redone in the library. So the new librarian had to reshelve, which is a huge task. Jen Macaluso is a veteran. She's the head librarian over there. Coach has allowed her to go train the St. Tammany librarian. And so I thought maybe she could go over. So Mary and Favre allowed it. So she worked with Mallory Young. Principal Stant and Assistant Principal Burkhalter were very warm and welcoming. And you got 1 hour of sweat equity out of me. I'm out of shape, but I think I pulled my weight. So hopefully that'll be, and it's book fair week, so it was a nice time to get together. And I just want to express, that made me feel good. A lot of the stuff we deal with, it takes a toll on me emotionally. So I just want to be able to work proactively whenever possible. All of us working together to make this a better experience, and that really made my day. So thank everybody that made that possible, and I'm going to get to the gym. Thanks.
Ms. Berrios.
Dr. Peterson, like Brent, I completely agree with you that our State Department of Education and Board of Elementary and Secondary Education have retreated from their responsibility to both maintain and to improve our system of public education. In fact, it's an understatement. Both the Department of Ed, led by Dr. Cade Brumley, Brumley, and every single member now sitting on the Bessie board have made it clear that privatization of our public system is their goal, and the process has become worse, a partisan political exercise which gives it superpower, especially when funded by billionaires who finance their campaigns. The Federation, both our local St. Tammany and our state organization, has developed and is moving forward with a strong plan for lobbying, as we did last year, not only our local legislative delegation, but all legislators statewide to craft new legislation to the benefit of public schools and the children we serve. But to also amend, improve, and clarify some current legislation. In addition to looking to other elected officials at the state level, our local school boards need to pull their heads out of the sand and recognize that they need to strategize to determine how they can legally take back as much local control as possible, curriculum being one obvious one. We have all seen in the last few days that there is a serious stated intent by the White House to all but shut down the U.S. Department of Education. The State Superintendents Association and the Louisiana School Boards Association are in the best position to exert their voices on behalf of public education. The Federation will do its part, but we hope our board members will not only support us, but work with the Federation and our membership statewide to move through this legislative session. To say that in the end the government makes decisions, as though what's the point? But that doesn't mean our voices shouldn't be heard, and maybe that shouldn't be the end result. If something is wrong in the United States of America, every citizen is responsible to make an effort to change that. Sometimes that gets messy. When that happens, we end up with a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Preach!
Thank you, Ms. Barrios. Our next meeting will be a board meeting held next Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. here at Brooks. And with no further business, I declare this meeting adjourned.